Well, another thing we always talk about is the capacity, the potential of the youth. So let's go back to that youth component. I know you've spoken about the NSAS protests. You have, asked for peaceful protests. And I recall earlier on during the protest, there was this rumor flying around on social media that the UN would intervene if protests last for 30 days. Of course, that proved to be untrue. But people would still like to know at what level the UN is interfacing with the government regarding, the protests, the demands that have been put out, and, finding a resolution. At what level? That's if the UN is involved at all.
Well, the UN's always involved because this country is very much a part of the UN. And when these protests started, the Secretary General was keeping a very close eye, as he does with all protests around the world, as to how this was evolving. I have to say right from the onset, this was an incredible movement of young people who were well organized, well intentioned, had legitimate concerns, and came together to make that felt and to say to government, you need to take care of these issues that over time have been exacerbated, and today COVID is making an even bigger mess of it. And I think that was a good thing. I certainly was proud of young people that I knew who were part of this. But very quickly, we have to understand that when you go into a protest, and let's remember we were all young and activists at one time, that you have to have an end game. And in this particular case, there were demands made of government, and the youth succeeded because in the shortest possible time, government responded to say, we are going to take care of these first issues that you have raised, and many more were raised thereafter. That came to be means that there is an engagement, and that engagement needs to continue. It needs to continue by young people making sure they are there and pushing for those demands that they made to actualize. Government has to ensure that it has processes in place that are genuine, that we have confidence building measures because trust is broken on both sides, and that we can move forward from the times of the protest. What is the UN doing about that? We've been asked to provide support in 3 particular areas. First, to make sure that these processes themselves can be stood up and can be ones that everyone is engaging in and that can see the test of time over the next months and perhaps years, because this is a transformation that is going to take time. The second is to ensure we support the National Human Rights Commission in standing up the panels that will look and will investigate some of the issues that have happened, and that we bring resolution to those in the shortest possible time. The third will be the support that is needed to underpin the Police Act of 2020 so that these reforms can actually take root and that we are able to have a communication strategy that government is able to tell people on time that they can follow the process and see what is happening. Again, what I'm saying here is that there are building blocks that need to be put in place that the past, and we have to acknowledge there have been many reforms that have been put in place to try to address these governance issues. What is it that has failed us, and how do we not make the same mistakes? And so the UN's support to government is to make sure that we can put in those platforms, we can engage and continue to support the bridge building and the police reforms, the other governance reforms that have to be put in place to make this a reality in the short and in the long term.